Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jaden and this is Vaguely Informal. In today's video, we will be discussing a mysterious cryptid known as the Skinwalker. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, as I regularly release creepy and fascinating content. Now, let's get into the video and discuss some terrifying stories about encounters with skinwalkers. The idea of the Skinwalker originated from Navajo legends. They were described as harmful witches that have the ability to turn into, as well as disguise themselves as, other animals. According to many legends, skinwalkers were once healers and medicine men that were corrupted by their own power and transformed into something different, something evil. It is said that for a tribe healer to become a skinwalker, they must be initiated by a secret society after committing the most evilest of deeds. These acts often include the murder of someone close to the healer, such as a close friend or relative. After the heinous act is completed, the healer, according to legend, will gain the ability to take the form of animals and become a skinwalker. Skinwalkers are said to have many supernatural powers and are able to bring about bad fortune. Because of this, historically skinwalkers were often blamed by many different Navajo tribes for tragic events and bad luck. Now that we have an idea as to what these things are, let's look into some creepy encounters people had with skinwalkers. My father owns a delivery service that operates out of Farmington, New Mexico. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much of a hassle for the larger delivery companies to bother with. My dad is the only employee and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona on the Navajo reservation, about 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets the call for the job. While he is chilling with his Navajo friend, Travis, and his girlfriend, Travis mentions how he's got family in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages and suggests they go with him. I was about 6 or 7 at the time, and it was summertime, so Dad decides we'll go down together. We can do his delivery really quick. Then while Travis sees his family, we can go check out Window Rock, which is a big rock face with a large hole in it that goes to the other side. It's pretty cool. We had to convoy in separate trucks since my dad's was loaded down with freight. We decided to bring along some walkie-talkies so we could communicate with one another. We spend our time in Window Rock. Everything is generally uneventful, and we start heading home along the whole highway with my dad and I in front and Travis and his girlfriend behind in their truck. I honestly don't remember most of the Window Rock trip, but this next part I can never forget. We were somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had just rained earlier in the day and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it pretty slow. On the left of the highway, there is nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right, there is a huge field separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of this hill, and down at the bottom of the hill, we see what appears to be a very large dog, sitting on its haunches in the middle of the road facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio.
"Hey Trav, do you see that big ass dog?"
Travis starts yelling back over the radio.
"That is not a dog. Speed up right now. Hit it."
He almost sounds hysterical. He just keeps screaming.
"Hit it, JJ. You have to hit it. Hit that fucking thing right now."
So my dad starts to speed up, and as we get a bit closer, I can begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted hair that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at us. It has a face. I don't know how else to describe it, other than a mix between a bear's and a human's face. It looks twisted, distorted, and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing, we start to realize it's actually huge. Though it is still sitting on its haunches, it is about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out this scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards towards the field, landing just on our side of the barbed wire fence. Then, with another leap, it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again.
Holy shit, keep driving. We have to go faster. We have to get out of here.
He kept repeating that last part. Pretty soon we are speeding like crazy, and just as we come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally, this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge. He immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says, "We just saw a Skinwalker a few miles back, and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home, Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing that was supposed to keep it away. We live in a rural community on the Navajo reservation. My aunt and her two brothers were home alone while my grandparents had left for the evening to attend a chapter house meeting. They were in the dark, and like many people from the reservation, they didn't have electricity. It had been dark outside for an hour, and my aunt and my uncles were getting ready for bed. Outside, they heard noises as if someone was moving things around. My oldest uncle went to look out the front window and saw a figure out by the truck. This was immensely out of the ordinary because the closest neighbor was miles away. Whatever it was, it opened the truck door and began to dig through personal items that my family had left in the vehicle. My aunt and uncles were frightened by the sight and knew that they should take action. They took out the rifle, and one of them steadied themselves to hold it up. They flung open the door and aimed the gun at the dark figure. The figure turned and started to walk towards them, totally unfazed by the weapon. My uncle pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. The figure drew closer, and my aunt began to smell something like a rotten corpse. It was so strong it made her gag. My uncle continued to pull the trigger with no luck, and the figure came closer and closer. Off in the distance, headlights were coming up to the road. My grandparents were returning. The figure looked towards the lights and started to move away and tucked itself behind a tree near the house. My oldest uncle ran towards the truck with the gun. My grandfather got out of the car, and my uncle pointed to the tree. The thing was poking out its head to observe what they were doing. My grandfather ran into the house and over to the stove and grabbed a handful of ashes and rubbed it over the gun. He then placed an ash-covered bullet into the chamber. He walked out onto the porch and fired towards the tree. Whatever that thing was, it didn't expect the gun to go off. The gunshot echoed and the figure began running. My grandma chased my aunt inside while my uncles and my grandfather went after it. There weren't many roads or paths, so as my grandfather and uncles chased after the figure, their truck was bouncing and the headlights couldn't fixate on any particular spot. My uncle swears that whenever the headlights would hit the figure, he saw a woman. Not only that, whoever it was running on all fours like a bear. My grandfather eventually stopped the truck, and as they neared the ditch that drops about 20 feet, he got out and began to yell in Navajo. My uncle says that he was yelling about a local woman. He yelled that he wasn't scared and that he knew it was her and to leave his family alone. A few days passed, and there was news that the woman that my grandfather was yelling about had passed. I've always been told that if you know who the Skinwalker is, say their name and it will kill them. While trading stories around a campfire, my friend recalled an encounter he had while serving an LDS mission. My friend's mission region had a reservation within its boundaries. However, it was relatively far from where he was serving. On one occasion, he and his mission companion were asked to travel further than usual to meet with some investigators. This took them near the reservation. On their way home, their car ran out of gas, and it wasn't until late at night that they were able to continue their journey home. My friend, who was driving while his companion slept in the passenger seat, chose a different route that took him through some back roads in an attempt to get home sooner. He told us he was driving above the speed limit when he noticed movement in the woods lining the road. Because coyotes were common in the area, he took little notice at first, but then he looked out the window and slammed on the brakes. The sudden stop jolted his companion awake, who immediately wanted to know what was wrong. My friend was shaken and said he would tell him once they got home. He asked him to say a prayer. By the time they made it home, his companion was dying to know what had happened. My friend told him, "I looked down at the road next to the car and saw 6 men running on all fours, keeping up with the car. I was driving at 40 miles per hour. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more creepy tales. Until next time.